morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the August 2nd, 2018 State Board of Education meeting. I'm Bill Kobe, Chairman of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Welcome to all board members, advisors, staff, on-site visitors, online listeners, and Twitter followers. I remind the audience that those listening that this body meets monthly with its official meeting scheduled for the first Thursday of the month. Committee meetings are held on Wednesday prior to the official meeting day, as was the case yesterday when the board met to discuss its committee items. I remind on-site visitors and online listeners that you can follow the meeting online and see all of our materials by going to State Board of Education meeting at www.ncpublicschools.org. Our agenda for the August meeting was approved yesterday, so we will proceed under the approved agenda. I will now read the ethics statement that is required of us. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in the discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. At this time, I'll call on Dr. Olivia Oxendine to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. As you know, the board highly values the contributions of its advisors. Today, we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming 3 new advisors to the board. Dr. Janet Mason, the new superintendent advisor, Mr. Travari Wallace, 2018 Principal of the Year advisor, and the 2018 Teacher of the Year advisor, Mr. Freeberg McKinney. Excuse me for stumbling. And now I'd like to invite you forward to have a photograph with the board.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. I need some short people there.
Yeah, that's great.
Smile, Ken.
And 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, and 3.
Congratulations. Great to have you.
You're already participating.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was encouraged that yesterday you started participating right away in our discussion, and that's what we want. Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you. We now come to some of our special recognitions of time on our agenda when we recognize those educators, schools, local school systems, or advisors for outstanding achievement and honors. Ms. Donna Brown has served this board and the Department of Public Instruction exceptionally well in her various roles, and most recently as Director of Federal Programs. She retires with 37 years of outstanding service. The board will miss your calmness, expertise, and willingness to get the job done well. I will now call on Mr. Greg Alcorn to read a resolution. Mr. Alcorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution from the State Board of Education honoring Donna Brown for her outstanding service from June 2004 to July 2018. Whereas Donna Brown has reflected these qualities in an exceptional manner in service to the Board and Public Instruction as educator consultant, educator program administrator, and educator program director. Whereas Ms. Brown's unquestionable belief in the North Carolina Constitution promises that, quote, the people have a right to the privilege of education, and it is the duty of the state to guard and maintain that right, quote, close quote. And that education is the safeguard of democracy. Whereas Ms. Brown's philosophy of being good and kind to everyone is expressed through her habit of building personal relationships with the staff, board members, and others she serves, reflecting her genuine heart and deep appreciation for those around her. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the State Board of Education expresses its heartfelt appreciation for Ms. Brown for her tireless and unselfish service and dedication. And resolved that the board wishes Godspeed to Donna Brown and her family as she turns her attention to the opportunities to continue her dedicated service to the children she has championed for her entire career. Resolved that the board expresses its highest praise for her service to the Department of Public Instruction, the State Board of Education, and the state of North Carolina and its 1.5 million plus public school children and 100,000 plus educators for some 37 years. And resolved that the board, influenced by Ms. Brown's insight, grace, intellect, generosity of spirit, and unrelenting passion for education, directs the Secretary of the State Board of Education to enter a copy of this resolution into its official minutes of the State Board of Education, and that an appropriately signed copy be presented to Donna Brown, who served the board and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction as a dependable, reliable, and ultimate professional. Signed, William Kobe, Chairman, North Carolina State Board of Education, Mark Johnson, Superintendent, this day, August 2nd, 2018.
Donna, if you could tilt the certificate down, yeah, because it's catching the light. Yeah.
And 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Her name resonates.
Yes, it does. She's a good lady. Yep.
And now we're going to ask Donna to have a few parting words for us. Good advice, usually.
I think you guys know that I share Chairman Kobe's affinity for brevity, so I will maintain that this morning. I just want to say that I am sincerely grateful for having had the opportunity to work with a many number of people across this state, but especially to the people in this building. If you didn't know, they're very smart, they're funny, they're compassionate, and they're very committed. And I will miss each and every one of them. Thank you.
And now we come to Dr. Freddie Williamson. Dr. Williamson has advised this board well the last 2 years. Even when his term expired, seeing the value of the position, he offered to serve another year until the next advisor was named. His contributions influenced many of the board's decisions, and his feedback and advice will be missed at this table. We look forward to hearing about and seeing great things he will continue to do in his district as superintendent. So at this point in time, Dr. Williamson, will you please come forward? Everybody come up here for a photo. So we have a plaque for him and a crystal apple. We all get the same spot.
And 1, 2, 3, and smile. One more. 1, 2, 3, and smile.
Freddie gave us some parting words, but then he didn't depart, so we're going. So I think in his second year, he learned some more. So,
and I promise to try to do better this time. You know, leadership matters, no question. Your leadership matters. In our classrooms, in our schools, be it traditional schools or charter schools or innovative schools, is our future. That's what this is about. That's why it matters, makes a difference. So this room, this table, these board members make a difference. It's about our future. Every policy, every conversation, every decision matters. It's about the future. So my challenge is, how will you continue to impact the future? You've done tremendous work, and hope and pray that you will continue to do that. But it is about the future of this great state of North Carolina. Thank you for all you do.
and now I call on Dr. Cynthia Martin to provide brief presentation on the 2018 Teachers of the Year. Dr. Martin.
Good morning, Superintendent Johnson, Chairman Colby, State Board of Education members and advisors. I am Cynthia Martin, lead for educator recognition and advancement at the department. Since 1970, North Carolina has recognized its outstanding educators through the Teacher of the Year program. North Carolina's 48-year history includes 8 national finalists, 3 national winners, and 1 National Hall of Fame winner. Our reigning North Carolina Teacher of the Year will compete for the national title this spring. Since 2013, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction has partnered with the Borough's Welcome Fund to honor North Carolina teachers. The mission of the North Carolina Teacher of the Year program is to promote the profession through advocacy and support while recognizing quality teaching professionals implementing best practices within classrooms across North Carolina. Individuals are chosen to represent their respective schools as Teacher of the Year, then advance to compete at the district level, ultimately competing for the regional title. Similarly, individual charter schools nominate Teachers of the Year who participate in a selection process facilitated by the Office of Charter Schools. Charter schools are clustered together to form the 9th region of the state. These 9 teachers compete for the state title. The state and regional Teacher of the Year form a cohort where they serve the state as ambassadors for the profession. Together, they have created a 4-pronged platform that focuses on stakeholder collaboration, equitable education opportunities, teacher recruitment and attainment, and global learning. I consider it an honor to work with this program and introduce you to the 2018 Teacher of the Year cohort. These 9 dedicated and highly skilled professionals were selected from 146 district and charter TOY applications. So I'm going to call your name. Please walk toward the front. First, we have our Northeast Region Teacher of the Year. She's from Perquimans County Middle in Perquimans County, Ms. Kaylee Kiffner. Next, we have our Southeast Region Teacher of the Year from Green Early College High in Greene County, Mr. Cameron Gumpton. Next, we have our North Central Region Teacher of the Year from Pinkston Street Elementary School in Vance County, Ms. Kadisha Stewart. Next, we have our Sand Hills Region Teacher of the Year from West Hope Middle in Hope County, Ms. Lindsay Seiss. Next, we have our Southwest Region Teacher of the Year from Mooresville High School in the Mooresville Graded School District, Ms. Simone Graham. Next, our Northwest Region Teacher of the Year from Burke Middle College and Burke County Public School System, Ms. Lisa Wall. We have our Western Region Teacher of the Year from RS Central High in Rutherford County, Ms. Julie Pittman. We also have our Charter School Teacher of the Year from the Capital Encore Academy in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Ms. Courtney Samuelson. Last but certainly not least, we have our 2018 Boroughs Welcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year, also known as the Village Teacher from Walter M. Williams High in Alamance Burlington School System, the one and only Mr. Freebird McKinney.
Come on up, but we have to do 2 rows. And
Yeah. Awesome. Scoot down there. Yeah. And then if you,
I think,
okay. Oh, well, we're all good.
okay, I thought it was gonna say we're taking 2 sides.
Oh, dear. Okay. John, if you could come right here. Yep. Yeah, don't you? Okay. I think we can see everybody's. Come out just a little bit. Yep, awesome.
And 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you.
Just 8 pictures.
Very excited.
So I don't roll over this clip. Oh, goodness, I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention. Oh, my Lord.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. And thanks to all the teachers of the year for your work, the work you do with the children of North Carolina. It's impressive and needs to be replicated all over our great state. So thank you. You're a special group, and it's very exciting to have you here with us. I now call on Mr. John Kirkland to provide an introduction for a presentation of the AAFCS National Teacher of the Year. Mr. Kirkland.
Good morning, Chairman Kobe, Superintendent Johnson, members of the board. I am pleased this morning to have the opportunity to introduce the National Teacher of the Year, but I'm going to let Trey Michael, our new State Director for Career and Technical Education, introduce this individual. So,
thank you, Mr. Kirkman. I appreciate that. Lieutenant Governor Forrest, Chairman Kobe, Superintendent Johnson, and members of the board, good morning. I am honored to share with you today another story of how career and technical education is developing leaders for our state, nation, and most importantly, as an example for our students. We are pleased to recognize Ms. Jenny Watson, a family and consumer sciences teacher from Southeast Middle School in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools. Ms. Watson has won national recognition from the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences as the organization's National Teacher of the Year. The association's Teacher of the Year award recognizes exemplary teachers who use cutting-edge methods, techniques, and activities to promote family consumer sciences in elementary and secondary education. Ms. Watson was recently honored on June 25th at the AAFCS 109th Annual Convention and Expo in Atlanta, Georgia. In response, Mrs. Watson said, "For me, it's almost overwhelming. It's very humbling, and it's very exciting that I was chosen out of all these states." Watson's award-winning Family and Consumer Sciences program, Counting on Kindness, focuses on improving students' communication, relationship, problem-solving, and self-improvement skills throughout the lessons and service learning projects. Her students had this to say about her: "She's very inspirational. She is the kindest person I know. And lastly, she definitely believes in you." Ms. Watson exemplifies the best of CTE teaching in the state schools. She's inspiring to her students and helps them develop skills that will serve them well as they pursue their own careers. Ms. Watson, thank you for all that you do for all children in North Carolina, and congratulations on this prestigious award.
attached in between the two flags. That makes it easier, so.
Turn sideways.
There we go, yep.
Let's do 2 rows.
Yep, perfect.
And 1, 2, and 3, and one more. 1, 2, and 3.
It's hot in here.
Well, it's been a great morning already. Wonderful, wonderful. So now I call on Superintendent Johnson for the monthly superintendent's report to the board. Mr. Johnson.
Thanks. Well, we need to put the screen down.
At ease.
Thank you. It will be rather brief. We were able to go over in detail the new organization chart yesterday, and again, very excited about the new direction for the department and working together as a team to collaborate and make sure that we're crossing across departments and divisions to make sure we're all working to help low-performing schools. Wanted to share some good news out of the department. The exceptional children, they received MEETS requirements, which, even though it just says MEETS, that is actually the highest ranking given by the Office of Special Education Programs. And this reflects our progress in all 17 federal indicators. And we're one of 22 states that has gotten this highest honor. So that is a great work. Thank you to Bill Hussey and his team. We heard yesterday my priority of CTE, and I was unfortunately not able to join them at the summer conference, but I was able to join them last year. It's a very exciting time. Anytime we do a conference and do it well, it's great to get educators and administrators all together and focus on good professional development and great sessions. And here, all the sessions were overflowing because this is a real pathway for many, many students. And we got to make sure that we're doing on our end for those students. A little bit of more just department news. We have improved our training, and we are one of the most improved departments in the state, which is very good top-down effort to remind people that when you get those online trainings, you are supposed to complete them, and I will say that I complete them as well. Maybe not always on time like the rest of us, but we take that seriously, and there's good information that comes in those. And we've achieved over 90% completion rate for all the modules, and we do again have a very large department, so that is something to be proud of. We also had the curriculum instruction team. They partnered and did a back-to-school supply drive, and here's a great picture of what is going to the Country Sunshine Child Care Center. It was just great that they took the initiative to lead this and just by working together get more supplies in the hands of students who need it. Great update on school business modernization. Thank you, Mike Spano, for your leadership on this. This is moving ahead. It's again, I go to the local superintendent's meetings and I say this is something that nobody except the people who are really in the weeds on policy are really going to understand what's going on. But the work we're doing to update our business systems for local school districts and this building are really going to help school districts all across the state in the future. For example, we're transitioning older systems to a cloud-based solution. This is going to alleviate expense and maintenance of an old system. And it's going to be important too for improving the processes, not just for this building, but for school districts all around the state. And last, we will be advertising. Again, we've talked here about the success of the virtual public school. There's going to be a virtual open house, and that's going to be one on August 14th and one on August 16th. This is, again, an amazing opportunity that we've been talking a lot on the board. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your leadership around digital learning. It is getting opportunities out to students in those really rural counties or in other situations where they might not normally have those opportunities. So we're very proud of the work they're doing and want to keep that enrollment going as much as we can. So thank you very much, and look forward to starting up the school year this month.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, thank you, Superintendent Johnson. We now begin our committee reports, and I remind committee chairs and the audience that all voting on consent and any item requiring action will be done at the end of the agenda via roll call. Okay? So your report, as you give it, no more votes, no more motions. We'll just have one motion at the end. So I recognize Mr. Greg Alcorn for the Business Operations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Greg Alcorn, serve with Todd Chasteen on the Business Systems Operation Committee. We have 3 actions on first read. The first one is the allotment policy manual modifications that talk about the adjustments for the renewal schools. Also, we heard information about teacher bonuses and bus drivers, and that is BizOp number 1. BizOp number 2 is the employee salary and benefit modifications on that manual. We discussed principal pay and the modifications and the timing of that pay on that BizOp 2. And BizOp 3 was the 21st Century Community Learning Center grants. We heard about the 49 suggested recipients of those grants that will be able to support 6,000 students with the $15,000 of federal funds that will be allotted to those entities. Those are the 3 actions on first read. And then we also heard information about contracts and got some guidance on getting additional information on no bid, single source, and convenience programs there. That concludes our
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alcorn. Any questions for Mr. Alcorn? Hearing none, I recognize Ms. Taylor for the report from the Student Learning and Achievement Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Kobe. I am Becky Taylor, and along with Dr. Olivia Oxendine, we do chair the Student Learning and Achievement Committee. We do have 2 action items. SLA 1 regards to the policies, just to bring our accountability, to come in line with our accountability model and be consistent with state and federal guidelines. We had 3 different policies, and one of them, ACCT 020, dealing with the performance school grades accountability model, as ACCT 021, dealing with the student participation in testing and the accountability model. And then the third one, ACCT 038, the state accountability options for alternative schools, and this is an action item. SLA 2 was our second item, and this is action also, presenting the field testing roster of what tests we would have this year and the calendar for these tests, and as well as discussing any appeal process that a district may be needing to use. And then under discussion, SLA 4, yesterday Dr. Eric Hall presented the proposed amendment for the State Board Policy KNEC 016 on the required K2 assessment. We did have a lengthy discussion yesterday on this item, and I believe he was going to bring back a red line version of the proposed revision, and then that will come back to us next month.
Any questions of Ms. Taylor? Okay, thank you very much. And now we'll move to Dr. Oxendine for the Educator Standards and Practices Committee report.
Thank you, Chairman Covey. I am Olivia Oxendine, and I chair the Educator Standards and Practices Committee. And joining me in that responsibility is Ms. Amy White. We have one item under action on first reading, and that took place yesterday in closed session. We accepted the recommendations from the Extenuating Circumstances Committee, took a vote on that in closed session. The next item has to do is ES&P 2, the new policy recommendation, and that recommendation is basically to go before, and you approved my my suggestion that the Professional Educator Performance Standards Commission study HB 933 with an eye on the State Board of Education granting licensure reciprocity to individuals who hold a nationally certified psychology credential. So that recommendation or that request will go to Pepsi, and we will await to hear from them with a recommendation back to the State Board ASAP. I would also like to, I did not mention this yesterday in my discussion, but I would also like for Pepsi not only to look at school psychology, but to also look at all areas of student services personnel to see if we can also extend reciprocity to other classifications as well. So
Okay,
we look
without
forward.
objection,
Yes, thank
go
you very
ahead
much.
with that.
Thank you very much. And so Dr. Tomberlin and Dr. Seiberg will be working very closely with Pepsi over the next, I don't know what the timeline would be, but I would say it's going to be sooner versus later. And we'll bring back a recommendation to this board. So I'm looking for, thank you so much, board, for giving me approval to move forward with that. And we have one business item that was presented by Dr. Tomberlin, and he provided a PowerPoint presentation on the the Pearson Mathematics exam. He cautioned us to know that this is the test that was the Pearson exam that was given prior to 2014-15. 3 years of testing prior to that year cannot be compared with the new Pearson exam. The new Pearson exam began, math exam, Foundations in Mathematics began in 2014-15. That was a Pearson 103. Prior to that, Pearson, I think, was 50-15 was given. So we can't look at the 3 years of scores going back to 2011-10 and then look at 2014 and say, wow, we have a dramatic decline in mathematics. We do have a decline in mathematics. And I might want to, let me just share this little tidbit with you. As I was preparing my notes this morning for this particular item presented by Dr. Tomberlin, what happens as soon as I make my final note? On one of the national cable networks, here is an alert about North Carolina math scores. The Pearson math scores for teachers in North Carolina have declined, and the state officials are taking a look at that. The number, I wasn't aware of the actual number was given. 2,400 math teachers in North Carolina failed. This did not pass the 16-17 administration of Pearson 103. So that was on national news this morning. It's kind of an eerie feeling because I had just taken notes on it. And bingo, here it is on national TV. So we, let me go through some of the things that we unpacked about the decline in the scores. Could it be that a policy that the state board approved a couple of years ago, which requires teachers to take the test, to attempt the test the first year and pass the second year, could that policy be creating another problem in terms of the teacher takes the test, there is a 2-year lag between graduation and actually taking this math exam? And as we know, I mean, the longer we stay out of college, our test-taking skills weaken, our math knowledge or whatever the content area might be, it could be English or reading, weakens. So could the policy that we passed with the best intentions a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year, I'm not quite sure of the timing, could that be creating another problem for us? Do we need another test? Do we need another assessment, another measure to administer or to require our teachers to take that is more in line with the expectations of teaching mathematics in K3 and 4-6. Do we need two classifications of licensing? A K3 grouping classification and a 4-6 or a 4-6 or a 6-12 or, you know, some different way to issue, classify and issue license. Our schools of education, are they revising their programs of study to prepare our teachers of mathematics for the rigorous standards that we have and we expect of students in North Carolina? So these are some questions that we discussed. It was a very robust and a very helpful discussion. And we will, once again, we will turn to Pepsi for advice and direction. Dr. Seiberg did inform us, and Dr. Tomberlin as well, that there is a subcommittee of Pepsi made up of mathematicians and math educators that are beginning to research the possibility of another test, another assessment. So we look forward to Pepsi. We really rely on Pepsi, and we're very grateful for the advice and direction that they give us with regard to teacher education and licensure. So that does conclude my report.
Okay, and yes, comments or questions, Governor Forrest.
Just a quick question. I apologize because I wasn't here yesterday, and I'm sure you discussed this, and maybe Dr. Tomberlin did as well, but how many other states use this test, and what are their results like? How do we compare with other people that are doing something similar?
That's a very good question, and I would turn to, is Dr. Tomberlin or Dr. Tomberlin in the room that could answer a question about how other states, teachers in other states are performing on the Pearson 103? Or, please do. Dr. Petrie-Martin, thank you.
Good morning to everyone, and of course they would have the specifics and we can get those numbers to you, but keep in mind this was a test from the state of Massachusetts, and that's how it came to the state of North Carolina. And I personally was on that first trip to Massachusetts to take a look at how this test impacted their teachers. And I think the first run of pass rates was between 65 and 70% at that time. But we can get you more up-to-date data. But Massachusetts is one that I know with certainty because we visited that state to bring it to North Carolina, but we can bring you those numbers.
And how does that align with our percentage? I heard an actual number, but where's that? What's the percentage on?
I think we're comparing close to the first time pass rate, but again, let's get us the concrete numbers for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions or comments about this particular, it's a very important item. The math test, the Pearson math test that our elementary education teachers must take, and we, as I said just a minute ago, we look forward to Pepsi and other recommendations from teachers around the state as well. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. I now recognize Ms. Amy White, Chairman of the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee. Ms. White.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy White, and along with Mr. Wayne McDevitt, we have the privilege and the honor of chairing the Education, Innovation, and Charter School Committee. We have one item for action this morning. That's EICS 1, the approval of a renewal school system, and Rowan Salisbury Schools has submitted an application. And this is a process that allows a local school system to design and create a comprehensive, innovative, strategic vision for sustainable school improvement. We are very excited that they have submitted this application. We reviewed that last month. It comes to us this month for approval. Probably the most exciting part of this is because Mr. Greg Alcorn presented yesterday on a program called AppSeed that is being implemented in the Rowan Salisbury School District. We also had the honor of having Dr. Lynn Moody, Superintendent of Rowan Salisbury Schools, here, and to hear her excitement about what this will mean for the schools in that county. Can't say enough about good, strong leadership and the support that she has district-wide about making this a successful implementation in that area. So that'll come to us later in the meeting for approval. we had a discussion item, EICS 2, the submission of restart applications for Hertford County Public Schools. If you don't know where Hertford County is, it's in northeast in the Ahoskie area. 3 schools came to us submitting applications, and might I also add that Dr. James Ellerby will be the person and point of contact for DPI that'll be bringing those applications to us, and we're excited about working with him. Under new business, we had Southside Ashpole startup and recruitment updates from Dr. Eric Hall. We are excited about what's happening in Roland, North Carolina. Dr. Hall reminds us frequently that if you're on 95, it's exit number 2, and it's right close to the North Carolina-South Carolina. But this is our state's opportunity to really make an impact on children in that school. Just to give you a brief update, he has been working hard on making sure that there's an employment policy manual. A new director of the school has been hired in Mr. Bruce Major. We're excited about his backgrounds, particularly his efforts and certification in exceptional children that'll serve those families. There are 24 teaching positions. Most of those have been filled. And so they are working hard to make sure this school is ready to open on August 27th. I do believe, Dr. Hall, that August 6th is your kickoff. That's Monday, your kickoff for staff and training. And we are really excited to see and the reaping of results at the end of the year. And then finally, we had as a result of conversation held last month, Mr. Dave Machado presented a report at the direction of the superintendent to talk about the state of our charter schools in the state of North Carolina. Probably the most important thing that came out of that conversation is the exponential growth in our charter schools since 2011. This year we will have 185 charter schools. And, you know, it caused me to think about some data, and it was no surprise that if we're right here in Wake County, and Wake County is the 15th largest school system in the nation with about 185 schools, and they work with a lot of staff and a lot of folks to make sure that those schools, but I'm sure that Kathy Moore, superintendent of Wake County Public Schools, would have an absolute conniption if I told her she had to operate all 185 schools with only 8 staff. And so we are currently operating in our charter school division 185 schools with 6 consultants, and that's about 30 per charter school. The conversation continued, and the discussion between support and monitoring and how we best make sure that all of those public schools are successful, and they are all public schools, and the need to help educate our community that charter schools are public schools and we are working for the best interest of children. Mr. Machado talked about workflow, communication, the application process, the renewal process, the performance framework, the CSAB committee, and professional development, and the good work that we are doing on behalf of charter schools in our state. And Mr. Chair, that concludes our report.
Okay, any questions or comments on that report? Well, thank you, Ms. White. Our final committee report is provided by Vice Chairman Davis as chair of the Special Committee on NC-DPI Transformation. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along with my colleague, Mr. Alcorn, we chair this special committee. We had 3 follow-up items to come out of our work yesterday. First, next month, we look for a report from the superintendent on the regional support structure, particularly the 3 risk items that were identified in yesterday's discussion. Second, in September, we'll have the 6 rules that were discussed yesterday before us for vote, and we welcome input from any board members as well as the superintendent on that item. And then third, we request the superintendent's response to the 20 questions that we shared with him concerning the DPI recent reorganization. Would prefer those questions be sent in writing to all board members by August 8th. That concludes our work.
Any questions for Mr. Davis or comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Board members, we now come to our consent agenda, which just has 1 item this month. I note to the audience that the consent agenda is primarily items that have come to the board for discussion in a prior month and are not complex or contentious items. I also note to the board members that have seen the materials for at least a week on the consent agenda. If there are no requests to remove this item from the consent agenda, I ask for a motion to approve SLA3, which is on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Keenan. Dr. Townsend Smith, please call the roll.
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
She's going, it's an inside joke. She's going in reverse order.
Ms. Taylor?
That's more than I imagined.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Chastain? Mr. Alcorn?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Forrest?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Chairman Kobe?
Yes,
It's unanimous.
the vote is unanimous. Board members, we now vote on any item requiring action from your committee reports. A thorough discussion and report was provided on each of them. I ask for a motion to approve the July 5th, 2018 meeting minutes, and in addition, the business ops action items, the ES&P action items, and action item of SLA and EICS committees. These are action and action on first read items. Is there anybody that asks for anything to pull out of that group? Then I need a motion to approve. They're all these. Yes.
I don't ask for anything to be pulled out. I do want to say with respect to the 21st Century Community Center Learning Grant, I will vote yes, but I would ask that by next year we have some data with respect to what effect the grants are having, so we can better inform our votes as we go forward on the
Okay.
grant program.
Okay, staff, please note that, and you brought that point out yesterday too. So I need a motion to approve all these action items.
So moved.
Okay, Dr. Oxendine moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. White. Okay, I'm gonna pause here for a second. Is there any comment or discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Townsend.
This motion is to approve the minutes and each of these items?
Yes.
All of these items?
All of them.
Mr. Chairman, I asked to be recused on the two that involve the renewal school system. Is that appropriate to, can we
We'll-
hold that on the vote?
We will pull those two and we'll have a second vote. That's okay. That's okay. So pull BSOP 1 and EICS 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're voting on all the other action items and minutes as a group. Anything else before we vote? Dr. Townsend Smith, please call the roll.
Chairman Kobe?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Alcorn?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Okay. The motion stands approved unanimously. And now we'll go to a vote on BSOP 1 and EICS 1. Is there with Mr. Alcorn recusing himself from this vote? So is there a motion to approve these two items?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. McDevitt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Please call the roll, Dr. Townsend Smith.
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Alcorn?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Forrest?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Chairman Kobe?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay.
Sheriff, would you mind informing the public about why we're doing these roll call votes?
Yes. As of this past session of the General Assembly, the General Assembly requires that we have a roll call vote on everything. So with trying to stay efficient, we are grouping the votes so that we don't have to have the roll called excessively.
Is that for all departments in that report to the, all departments in North Carolina?
No,
I don't think
Just for
so.
us?
It's just for us.
it's in statute and it's just this.
Yeah. So we get singled out every once in a while, if you've noted. But our director of operations knows how to find efficient ways
Yeah, sure do.
to handle
Our
this.
votes have always been public and recorded and not roll call, but
Right.
you can go to the minutes and see who recused themselves and who was present.
Yeah, and we've always noted if someone voted against
Yes.
by name. So we've always had a record, that's for sure. All right. Thank you to all staff and presenters for this August 1 and 2 meetings. Board members, this concludes our committee meetings and action and items for today. And now I would like to recognize Mr. Eric Davis to read a resolution honoring Mr. C.D. Spangler. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution by the North Carolina State Board of Education honoring C.D. Spangler Jr. for his outstanding service in memoriam from 1982 to 1986. Whereas the North Carolina State Board of Education takes pride in the extraordinary qualities and dedication of the citizens who have served public education as state board members. And whereas the State Board of Education Chairman Emeritus C.D. Spangler Jr. reflected these qualities in an exceptional manner during his service to the state of North Carolina as a businessman, as Vice Chairman of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education, as Chairman of the State Board of Education, and other various capacities over several decades. And whereas Chairman C.D. Spangler's lifelong record of service and philanthropy benefited North Carolina, a state he loved at the highest levels in the most remarkable manner. And whereas Mr. Spangler's beliefs and convictions that all children, regardless of circumstances or geography, had a right to a public education through high school and beyond to contribute to their state as productive citizens and to ultimately control their own destiny and their own future. And whereas Clemmy Dixon Spangler Jr.'s unquestionable belief in Article 9 of the North Carolina Constitutional Promise that, quote, the people have a right to the privilege of an education, and it is the duty of the state to guard and maintain that right, end quote. And whereas Chairman Emeritus Spangler Jr. championed affordable tuition at the collegiate level and championed equality for women and minorities, and whereas Chairman Emeritus Spangler's unique experience as a highly successful businessman and strong, relentless advocate for children, minorities, and women positioned him uniquely to grasp the connection of success to one's education as he actively championed against tuition increases with a belief and conviction that regardless of circumstances or geography, everyone has a right to a public education through high school and beyond to contribute to their state as productive citizens to ultimately control their own destiny and their own future. And whereas this State Board of Education appreciates Chairman Emeritus Spangler's personal integrity, courage, and commitment to life improvement for all through education, both K-12 and post-secondary, and how these traits manifest as a great vision for the possibility of a better tomorrow for all. And whereas the board acknowledges that Clemmy Dixon Spangler Jr. was a rare and singular individual who gave much to his beloved wife, Meredith, their 2 daughters, to his family, friends, community, and state. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the North Carolina State Board of Education expresses its heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Meredith Spangler for having the generosity of heart to share her beloved husband with many in education, business, and countless community endeavors, working always for the greater good. And resolve that the board expresses its infinite thanks for Chairman Emeritus Spangler's continued interest in and work for education throughout his life, far past his service on the state board. And resolve that the board honors and commends the humble intellectual C.D. Spangler Jr. posthumously as a man of greatness, kindness, wisdom, and generosity. And resolve that the board, influenced by Mr. Spangler's knowledge, experience, lifetime of hard work, selfless service, and caring for all humankind, directs the State Superintendent of the Department of Public Instruction to enter a copy of this resolution into the official minutes of the State Board of Education, and that an appropriately signed copy be presented to his wife, Mrs. Meredith Spangler. Signed, William W. Kobe Jr., Chairman, Mark R. Johnson, Superintendent.
Would you like to make a motion to approve the resolution?
Yes, I'd move that the State Board approve this resolution.
Second by Mr. McDevitt. Dr. Townsend Smith, please call the roll.
Chairman Kobe,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Forrest, Mr. Alcorn,
Honored to say yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes.
Ms. Taylor,
Yes.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Okay, the motion stands approved unanimously, and Mr. Davis, will you take care of making sure this is delivered to Mrs. Spangler?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. This is the board's way of thanking Mr. Spangler for his many contributions to North Carolina. Board members, do you have any items of new business other than what we've done? Okay, hearing none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn, but please tell Buddy Collins that I beat his record. And also, don't worry, I'll tell him too. But also, I guess I need to thank the General Assembly because they have brought more efficiency to our meetings by combining our votes. So thank you, General Assembly. I didn't know it would come out that way. Maybe they didn't either. Who knows? A motion to adjourn. Okay, motion by Mr. Alcorn, second by Mr. Keenan. Please call the roll, Dr. Townsend Smith.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Ms. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yeah.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Mr. Alcorn, Lieutenant Governor Forrest,
Please record that.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Chairman Kobe.
Yes. Okay. Thanks to everybody. I just can't believe it's just a little bit over an hour, but we stand adjourned.
I must have left something on my report.